Hello.
Hey, Justin, how's it going?
Good. How about yourself?
Good, good.
Good. I feel like I've been like catfishing you guys, like I don't exist or something. I just watched the Manti Teo doc, and I feel like I'm doing that. I exist. I'm real. Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks.
No problem. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's kind of big. I was telling, I mean, Scott already knows this, but well, Scott's my brother. We have another co-host that can't be here right now, but I always talk about you guys' show, the Real Kipper and Bourne show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I listen. I mean, I used to. I listen to it every day.
Well, I just found out that Kipper didn't. I was a little worried for a bit, but he did sign another contract, so we'll be back at it in October.
You heard it live on Leafs Talk Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're back, baby.
Are you
Sorry.
guys are you guys back at 3 to 5
Yeah,
or yeah?
that's the plan. I don't know, like I don't know, maybe I'm not supposed to leak lineup news, but we are back at a
Oh, sweet.
time. Yes, yes.
Because that 1 hour just wasn't enough.
No, it's not even enough to get into anything properly, and then once you do one topic, like the rest of the league gets ignored. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
we're back to two, so all good there.
Well, again, thanks for coming on. We got only a little bit of time with you, so we're going to try and ask as many questions as we can, get your insight.
For sure.
Uh, First, why don't you tell us or tell the listeners about yourself?
Yeah.
Everyone may not know who you are.
Yeah, no, being at Sportsnet for 3 years now, and my media career is a product of a hockey career that was fairly unsuccessful, but I played in the minors. And after that started the blog, my own free website, went to the Hockey News and USA Today and kind of started to grow a little bit. And then once the media side got big enough, I got a job with the Marlies. They saw my like systems analysis work and did video coaching in the American League for a couple of years before going back to the media side. So, kind of had my player side, my coaching side, and then the media side. And it's been my commitment now is media. So I've been enjoying that for 3 years of Sportsnet now.
And can you confirm that Kyle Dubas is a nice guy?
Yes, he's a wonderful guy.
Yeah, some people have some weird opinions of him.
It's too bad that he like has this reputation as like this numbers calculus nerd that like isn't some free thinking human or something, because he really is a hockey guy. He played growing up and was with with teams his whole life, and then was with the Sioux at 25. Like he's been around rinks and in dressing rooms, and he happens to be good at math and uses some other metrics. But no, he's a super good guy. The one thing that people don't know as much is just that he's very competitive and fiery, and he's got that side of him too to go with the numbersy side. It's a pretty healthy mix. I'd say the older he gets, the better off Leafs fans are.
That's for sure.
So obviously being in Toronto, there's a huge fan interaction on social media, even in public media, whatever. How much does that impact like you guys personally, whether it's the GM, a player, a coach, even in the media? Like fans on Twitter sometimes get ruthless. So like do you pay attention to that often, or is it kind of like a side thing? You pay attention to it every once in a while?
Pay attention to it all the time. Like, as much as people are like, it's just noise, it's secondary, like it's the noise that dictates. At the end of the day, the fans make the decisions of what they listen and watch and whatever. That's what people will make more of. And if same with the hockey team, if there really is an overwhelming majority that wants something a certain way, eventually the fans will get their way. And so for us as a show, as a radio show, we listen and read the tweets and responses, and even the ones that aren't very nice, and get a sense of, you kind of got to do like a plus minus, like in hockey, if you're on for a whole bunch for and a whole bunch against, and it kind of levels out. I would say that's kind of where our show was at the beginning, where we got a lot of feedback, both positive and negative. And as the show, year went on, we really started to improve our plus minus in that category. So that encourages our bosses to keep our show around, which, as I mentioned at the start of this here, like, we'll be back another year because people seem to like it. So yeah, if you don't pay attention to what people are saying, man, it's you're going to end up on the wrong side of the business. That's for sure.
Yeah, I remember at the start, everyone was just ripping Sammy McKee.
I know.
And then at the end, then they wanted to see him on live video.
Yeah, I think you had to get to know Sam. Like, he is so authentic. Like, people genuinely like him because you know, he's a everyman hockey guy from Owen Sound, and he's got his opinions, and we see him as an equal. Not just a producer or anything. So yeah, once people got used to the idea that his opinion is worth respect too, and things improved for the show once we became almost a 3-man show, even though it's just the
Yeah.
two of us on the headlines.
At first, I thought it was Ray Ferraro
Is
when I first
McKee?
listened. Yeah, he sounds like Ray Ferraro to me.
I
I
can
was
tell
like,
you one thing: we can't afford Ray. We got
no.
enough budget issues. We would love to have him, but we were lucky. We actually had Ray for a show.
Yeah.
Thanks to a misunderstanding, we'll never get him again. Like, he's a TSN guy. Somehow people misunderstood. I think he thought we weren't on Sportsnet or something. Anyway, we were just happy to get him, and it worked out, so we enjoyed it.
Yeah, and Doug McLean, he's on. Doug McLean. I remember one time I argued with Doug McLean on Twitter, and I was like 11 years old, and he DM'd me saying, "Send me your resume." I'm like, I'm 11. Like,
Come on. Did that really happen?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Yeah. I also
It was
I
on
also-
Trade Center.
Yeah, it was like the year Mitch Marner. Maybe I wasn't 11, but I think it was like the year Mitch Marner got drafted, and he was saying he was too small, and I was just like, I think he might be done for that. And then I tweeted out like, Doug McLean doesn't know what he's talking about, and then he just messaged me privately saying, "Listen, kid, send me your resume." I was like, obviously you're gonna win. Like, and it's funny because he has that same attitude like when Brent Gunning was on as the host, and he just didn't know his name. He's just that type of guy. Good guy, hockey knowledgeable, but
yeah, he's Doug is Doug, and Doug doesn't compromise for anyone. I don't know if he likes me, cares about me, or knows my name. But he comes on our show and people get a kick out of him. He gives us a good 20-30 minutes a week.
Yeah.
And so keep hammering away. I like him.
Yeah, I like him now. I also never used to really care for Nick Kipros until this show. I used to chirp Nick Kipros on Twitter just because it was funny. And then he blocked me, and then I'd make a new Twitter account. And then like this year, I just learned so much about him, and that he's actually a stand-up guy. And then he donated to our brothers Jack and Jill, like his company. He donated like 75 cans of his little Buddha, and
Nice.
yeah. And then I met him, and he was just like giving us encouraging words, like he knew, like he listened every week.
That's awesome.
I guess it's never judge a book by its cover.
Well, for sure. And I think, I didn't know Nick before we did the show. And I think a lot of people, I, like a lot of people, see the like brash confidence, and it's like, oh God, this guy's going to not listen and just overpower me. But I didn't find that at all. A quick story on that is, when they announced our show, they announced the name of the show, or they announced it internally. They announced the name of the show was Nick Kiprio, the real Kipper with Justin Bourne. And I was like, I was kind of sold that, we were going to be equals in this, not it was Nick's show with me. And so I said to Nick, without even really knowing him, like, I'd like it to be and Justin Bourne, with that, I think that, real Kipper and Bourne. And he was like, listen, man, it's not about me. We're going to be a team. We're going to be, tied at the hip. If you want, if you feel better being presented that way, it's good by me. And so right away we got off on a good, I had a little ego there, but I also thought it was fair, and Nick listened to me. And so, I didn't know what to expect, but a good impression right away. And, we worked pretty well all year.
Yeah. The moment that I really turned from you is when he basically read out one of the reviews of Sam and McKee, and then in a roundabout way told the guy off for like on air, just said like Sammy's opinion matters. And I was like, oh, maybe I have the same opinion as you. It's like, this guy's coming from his career. He's probably going to just take over the show. But I was surprised. I really like it. I actually miss listening to all those podcasts because there's nothing on.
Yeah, no, we're excited to get back at it too. Nick's got he's taking his daughters to like Clemson or something, like, so I haven't been in touch with him much, but we're going to start the show planning and what we're going to do for this season coming up soon. So it feels like it's almost that time, right? Like September is like, okay, well, we're getting almost back to the good stuff here.
Well, I got a question for you about some good stuff. Patrick Kane rumors to Toronto. Apparently William Nylander's said to be going the other way. What do you think about that?
I honestly, man, I've been out of touch with hockey stuff, and I had someone send me this, like, what do you think of this? I think any GM is not worth the salt if you don't feel out. He's going to be available at the deadline, presumably, Patrick Kane. So can't blame a GM for reaching out. So I don't know if there's much of a story there that like Dubas, reached out. But you got to do something different. You got to have an open mind. And I don't think it's anything. I don't think there's much to it at all personally, but I think it's hard to miss it here in Toronto, the Kawhi Leonard thing. You went out and you traded someone that was a big piece of what you were doing and tried to get better. Are you better with Kane than Nylander? Yeah. Does that, is there a lot of salary? Who knows what has to happen? I haven't put a ton of thought into it, but yeah, there's more to it. But yeah, I mean, it sounds far fetched, but I'm glad to hear that they're sniffing around. Why not, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I like Nylander better, but I think Patrick Kane and Matthews would work well, super well
Yeah,
together.
I like Nylander better, and I am not an anti Nylander guy for his value, his contract. I think he's great. He's great. He's just there's a ceiling that that you're probably at, and I don't know if I don't know. I'm with you. I'm a Nylander guy, but you always got to have your ears and eyes open for ways to get better.
That's true. And with that being said, Sammy McKee read your tweet about Calgary being like a what was it? Something about a breakup in your mid-20s or something like that on air. And I wanted to ask, do you think Calgary got better or worse?
I think they're better. I think they're definitely better. But as my totally random tweet kind of implied, it's like they got dumped, and now they're like, well, but I have a Corvette and a race car bed and a hot blonde girlfriend now. Like they just kind of went out and got everything they could right now to look as good as possible right now in the wake of the Kachuk thing happening, and they're great. But again, Kadri's what 32 at the start of this deal.
Yeah.
Like Hugh Huberdeau is maybe doesn't have quite the edge. He gets as many points as doesn't have quite the edge as Kachuk. Like I think they're better this year for sure. I just don't know that it's the best thing for the franchise. And is it enough to make them cup? Contenders. Maybe it is. Maybe they're in that echelon for a year or two. So it's one of those things. If you win, you look like a genius. If you don't, I think they're in trouble a couple years down the road.
I think Kadri versus McDavid will be good this year.
Oh yeah,
And Kane.
that's great.
And like
What kills me? 3 Battle of Alberta matchups this year. The Flames only play the Oilers 3 times all season. They need to scrap the whole schedule and rebuild it.
Yeah.
It's insane to me that those two teams are only going to play 3 times in the same
I haven't
division.
looked at the Leafs, but I wonder how many times they play Montreal versus how many times they play Arizona, because that seems to be a draw for the NHL as Matthews playing in Arizona.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to get there. If anything, if you're the Leafs, you want Matthews to go play in that college rink as many times as possible, just to remind him how much it's going to suck there and how much he shouldn't want to be a part of it.
Are you on board of him leaving or staying?
I think he stays. Like, he's a superstar. This is where you play if you want to be as big a star as possible in hockey. He can. If they win a cup here, I know everyone says that, but like it's reality. You win a cup here, you're the guy forever. And it could be a launching if he wants to do other things in his career. He can make all the contacts here. He can be the guy. The only argument I'll hear from that angle is that LA could do something like that for him. But I don't know. Are you competitive or not? Like if you're competitive, you want to be in Toronto. Play in Toronto for the Maple Leafs. Be the captain of the Maple Leafs at some point. Be the guy. So I think he's the guy. I think he's got that fire to him. And to me, it'll be defining for what people think of him. If he decides not to do that, I think that'll be defining about what his priorities were. And I think they're winning. We'll see.
What about the Rangers? Because I know there's rumors now that he might go to like Rangers, similar situation to Toronto, where they're a classic team.
Yeah,
they're like the city in the States. If you win a Stanley Cup in New York, you're going to be the guy too. Yeah, would that be a draw for him to steal him away from Toronto?
For sure. Yeah, like that's the other case, I suppose. Yeah, LA and the Rangers are there too. I guess I kind of wrote them off just thinking about their salary and who it's committed to and how impossible it would be for them to make that happen. But yeah, I think that, on their short list of places you could see him ending up, that would be one of them. I still think Toronto's the best spot for him, but they're going to have to show that they're going to be competitive during his next contract, to make him want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And speaking about New York, what was it like having an Islanders legend as a dad?
It didn't really get cool, I think, until I was old enough to appreciate it, because growing up, like all your friends dads are Islanders players too. Like we were kind of around that as a young kid. So, um, when my dad got inducted into the Islanders Hall of Fame in 2005 or six, whichever year it was, that I think that's when I started putting more time into appreciating what it was, and those Islander years, and connecting, old enough to like, have a drink with some of his old teammates and talk about those years, and you get a sense for what a team they were. And I don't mean on the ice, I just mean like there's no salary cap, not many people really knew what each other made. They were just like a group that was meant to be together, and no reason they couldn't be together, and they stayed together for as long as they could before they didn't win enough to justify it. So cool, like really cool to just get to hear the stories after the fact. And I never felt any pressure or anything on the playing side because of it. So yeah, I would say more or less I reaped the rewards. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm a lucky guy in that way.
What about with Bridgeport? Was there any, even from fans, was there any kind of pressure there? Because obviously your dad was an Islanders legend, Bridgeport.
Yeah, no, no pressure. I kind of thought, and if I'm being completely honest, I kind of thought there would be more, I guess, like, hey, that's Bob Bourne's son. Let's give him a chance or something. But it's, people are fighting for jobs. Like
Yeah.
it's, I don't. I think because of the way I grew up in terms of as a player, I was never great. I was never top prospect. I was never drafted. Anything I did was kind of gravy. Expectations were really low for me. I think there were more people rooting for me to not embarrass myself than they were thinking I had a serious chance to play well. And then I think I went there and played really well and surprised some people and made them go, oh, like, actually, do we maybe want this guy around for, more than we expected to? And, but no, I never felt it from anyone that like I, had to do this or play a certain way. It just, it was all a positive experience. I have a book coming out in February that covers a lot of these sort of years and feelings and all that. And I'm grateful for my time there, as short as it was.
That's actually kind of cool to hear because usually you hear stories of sons of famous NHLers or even just NHLers, and they're always talking about how you have to live up to the expectations of your dad or the pressures that come with it. So it's cool to hear a story finally of there wasn't really that pressure. They kind of just were happy you were there and wanted you to play for them.
Yeah. And I mean, again, this, it's a convoluted story at times with that, those relationships and, my interest in hockey and following in my dad's footsteps and all that. But yeah, pressure was certainly not one of the things I felt as a player, again, because I didn't prioritize hockey until I was old. I was like 15 years old when I was playing like Bantam B, whatever. And all of a sudden I grew 6 inches and everyone was like, oh, I have a little bit of interest at that point. So yeah, not being a superstar young, I think lowered the expectations enough that I could clear the bar.
When did you meet your wife? Because your wife, for those who don't know, is Clark Gillies' daughter. Our
Yeah.
condolences to the family as well.
Thanks.
And he's not only a legend in the Islanders community, but also in the NHL in general.
Yeah.
So, was there any pressure of letting him down, or
Yeah.
more than your dad?
I think so. Yeah. Like, so when my dad got inducted into the Islanders Hall of Fame, that's when I stayed with the Gillies because my dad and Clark were such good friends. And that's when I kind of re-met Brianna. We had been next door neighbors as kids, but kind of re-met her. And that kind of started up. We've been together since roughly around then, 4 months after that or something. So, that he lived in Long Island, right? Like Clark was there, and my dad was in Kelowna, BC. Clark was connected with the team, and I don't think many people know that Clark like interviewed for the Islanders head coaching job like not that long before that. Like he was entwined in the community, and so I knew he hears more of the rumbles, and I felt more obligation, I think, not obligation, but hopeful to not let him down, to keep impress him a little bit on that side of things. And he was just such a great supporter of mine, as a player from day one. I was really grateful to it. But I did, for whatever reason, I think just because Long Island was still home, I didn't want to. I was staying at the Gillies' house when I was like going to main camp and all that, so I didn't want to like come home with my tail tucked between my legs to someone who wouldn't have smiled upon that. So
Did he ever teach you how to throw knuckles, or
no, man, I wasn't going to do it. Like if I ever fought, it was purely out of necessity or to, make sure my teammates thought I knew I was willing to do it if I had to. But no, that was never going to be a part of my game that was going to help me out very much.
I mean, it would have been a cool mentor to have to teach you.
Yeah, in retrospect, I should have asked him a couple questions, but I have a feeling he wouldn't have been able to tell me how to be 6'3", 220 and
That's
just
true.
have
That's
an
true.
air trigger temper.
I think there was one story, I believe you told it, of like, wasn't there a time where he was like on the ice getting his face pounded in and still got up and won the fight?
Yeah, well,
Or wasn't it the
there's
time that he fought two people?
Yeah,
Wasn't that it?
there's a couple of fights where he fights a guy, but that's not the guy he wants to fight, and you can see him almost like fighting off to the side while trying to get to the other guy, and then like throwing people aside. Just he had that. It was a different league then, and he had what you needed mentally to just genuinely want to pound people who wanted to beat his team. So hey, that's part of his legend, right?
Yeah, that's true. You mentioned your book. Well, you said it's coming out in February. Do you have a title yet, or?
Yeah, it's called Down and Back, which is a good hockey term from practice, but also relates to some personal experiences in there. Um, I haven't talked about some of this stuff publicly yet, so I kind of got to hang on to a little bit, but it is my story through the years. Um, I try to talk on hockey's hot button issues using kind of my own chronology, like as I encountered drugs in the minors, alcohol, as I encountered what concussions can do to my dad's, like 99% sure he's got CTE and lasting effects of that. So a lot of it is just like using my own playing timeline to discuss some of the bigger issues in hockey and, where that leaves us, because hockey culture gets killed, and rightfully so in many cases, but there's also a lot of good, right? And so I hope it's a little bit of a validating story for hockey, in that I don't blame hockey for the bad things to have happened to me or to my family, but there's no doubt it plays a role. So I just tried to take a look at some of that stuff,
Is
Yeah.
is that discussed in locker rooms? Like I know CT hasn't been around for a while, or
Yeah.
like it's a relatively new. But like, is that a big topic of discussion in locker rooms, or do people just kind of not worry about it until later
Yeah.
in the careers or in life? Or
It's a good question. No, I don't think that, I think it would come up here and there. Like you're right, that when I played, it was certainly not as prevalent, discussed, whatever. I think generally when you go into a contact physical sport, you're accepting of the damage. If you ask my dad today, is the damage he incurred worth what it gave him? He'll tell you yes. What it gave him was hell in many ways. He's got some tough, situations that he deals with on a day-to-day basis because of that. But, his career in life has been defined by what happened on the ice with those Islanders teams, and, what it gave our family and what has been passed down to my son now. And like, he would say it's worth it. So I think most players believe that the trade-off of what you can get out of it is worth it if you get there. Obviously, not everyone gets there. Most people don't get there, and that's why you end up with people going, well, shit, all I got is this brain damage for my troubles, and it's a problem. So, yeah, it's a dicey moral issue, but if we're going to accept people playing these sports and the players themselves accept it, it's just going to be a part of it.
And with your father-in-law being Clark Gillies, what is your take on fighting in today's society or today's game? Like, are you
Yeah.
still for it?
Yeah, no, I am still for it. You know, its relevance is so different, like I think I love it. Like personally, I love it. I love watching it. And like, I do believe that, that intimidation factor is still so real. That's such a big part of the game. It's a war to get the hockey puck, and, being scared of someone who, if you wrong them, can do that to you is a real element and always has been. I don't think it has as much to do with the game as it used to. And I also don't think that it's necessary to take it out, because it's kind of weaning itself out, except for necessary cases, like, the decline of fighting is real. But having it be sort of the nuclear option there for players and teams is still, I still think provides an entertainment element. If you look at the way U.S. hockey fans have followed the sport, I would argue that the declines in some of the prevalence of hockey is mirrored with the decline of some of the violence. I think people liked it. So it's got to be an entertaining sport too. You got to sell tickets. So I think it's a part of the game, and I enjoy it. And so yeah, I'm still a knuckle dragging Neanderthal in this one.
I'm gonna bring this question back to Leafs related here for a second. So I know that you guys talked a lot about the decor on the Real Kipper and Bourne um, radio show. We aren't the biggest supporter of Justin Hall. Could you give us your opinion on what do you think the Leafs could win with their core now, taking out Sandin because he's not signed yet?
Right. The Leafs, I can't imagine looking at that Tampa Bay series they just played and say that Leafs team can't win. Like, they can win. They beat them 3 times. They went to overtime. They went to game 7. They put, they were right there in a sport where one random bounce and you're through. And I know it's a simple ifs and buts where candies and nuts every day would be Christmas, that whole thing. But they are a team that can hang with the best teams in the biggest moments. I think we've seen that from them. Tampa goes on and they play in the Stanley Cup final again. The Leafs team is not that far off, right? They're not a massive overhaul from being good. They were really, really good. So yeah, I do believe in the decor. Now that said, Justin Hall did everything he could to get to the NHL, to play at the NHL level. And during his peak of his athletic years, I think he gave the Leafs really good quality play. A guy who's not really an NHL guy or, worked his way there for a couple of good seasons, as he declines at all, or maybe his motivation flags at all, or whatever it is, like he's not what the Leafs may need. The thing is, he's so cheap, and can you better use that money? The Hall question is a great question about, stats versus, I understand watching Justin Hall. It's like, like hit him, fight him, punch him, like get in there, do something. But like you look at the numbers, and and he played for the Marlies, and I was a video coach, and we'd look at the numbers, and I'd go back and watch his retrievals on dump ins. He gets the puck out of the zone. He pokes it to someone who breaks it out right before he gets run over. He takes a hit and, shields the puck to keep the puck in the Leafs possession. He does all this little stuff that's just like, I wrote one article on it and clipped a bunch of video where it's like, did Justin Hall play great? No, but watch this. Every time he goes back for the puck, it goes the other way. So I know he's not aesthetically pleasing, but man, he can hang on. He does some good things for the Leafs. I don't know if he's going to be good for him going forward or not. I don't even know what to expect, but I know that he has validated himself on that Leafs team in the past.
It's nice to get your opinion on this, because obviously, like, you were one or 2 years, maybe good years away from making the NHL, and me and Scott have played combined 0 games on ice. So
Great.
So from that perspective, I just have a quick question, because most of the time we're just what we see on Twitter, what we see on TV, and you're more in like the background of the news channels, or even like of the sports. You have connections in the teams. With the moves Toronto made in the offseason, is there actually like a big panic for the team? Because on Twitter, on social media, even on the day of free agency, they were like, the goaltending isn't good enough to win. This team will be lucky to make the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is there actually that panic, or is that just for TV to draw viewers?
Yeah, no, there's never for TV to draw viewers in my experience. Like, honestly, there was not a single day this year where we were like, do we think this? No, but we should say it because people will listen. Like, legit, like never once happened. There's times where you're like, you go in and you say something to each other off air. It's like, I gotta tell you guys something. Like, I think Alex Kerfoot sucks. We never said that. I like, that might be something someone might come in off air and say. And it's like, what? You actually think that? And it's like, yeah, well, here's why. I watched him do this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, you know what? People might think that's that's incendiary. It's a hot take or whatever, but I think you can back that up. Maybe you should say it on the air. Like, that's the only time you get a hot take to air. In general, it's Nick and I barely talk before the show anymore. When we first started the show, we did, but now we like go over the header, like the main topic. All right, we're going to talk about the third period or the Leafs D or whatever, because we used to do the show off the air, and I'd be like, I like Justin Hall, and he'd tell me I'm wrong, and I'd tell him why, and we'd do the whole show off the air, and then we'd go on the air and we would try to like redo it, like we were acting.
Mm-hmm.
And so we try to keep it authentic by not giving each other our opinions on that. We'll even watch a big hit, and I'll come in and be like, what'd you think of that? And I'll be like, tell you on the air. All right. Like that's, kind of how we try to keep it fresh for on the air. But no, so in regards to that, I don't think anyone would do it just for ratings or attention or clicks or whatever it may be. But I do think that there is some nervousness. Like Matt Murray, I haven't really got a chance to talk about this Matt Murray stuff yet, and I need to put some more thought into it. But Matt Murray.
That's what we said too.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something I'm missing here. I need to do a little bit more research on this before I go on the proper radio and do it. But boy, seems like a dicey plan to me.
I don't know how much longer we have with you, so I do want to ask you two questions. One, what advice would you have for your 15-year-old self? Like if you could tell them what you know now about hockey.
Yeah. That's great. I actually really like that question, because a lot of things, my 15-year-old self was still playing hockey, and I would tell him to lift weights and care and try. Like all the off-ice stuff really matters. And I think I was pretty good at hockey. Like just, I had a good brain. Like I could just score goals because I knew where to be a lot of the time. And even until my second year of college, like I would still like eat an ice cream sandwich during the day, and like I don't feel like napping today, and like I just wish I had taken it more seriously, given it an honest effort to see what my maximum could have been, instead of just being like, oh, I'll just think my way around it. So yeah, I think I would have pushed myself to focus on off the ice, because now you only have pros in the NHL. Like there's maybe a guy, a team who doesn't take great care of themselves or doesn't care as much. Like there's too much money at stake, and guys are just pros, man. They lift and train, and it's a business now. So I wish I'd focus more on that.
And my other question to you is, for those, we have a lot. I know we have well, not a lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but I know we have some people who are surrounded personally to us that listen to this podcast that are children or middle-aged teenagers. What advice would you give to them if they can't make it at hockey? For example, in your situation, you turn to sports writing and now on one of the biggest podcasts or radio shows there is. What advice would you give them?
I don't know. I feel like I grew up late, like because I played at age 26, 27, even no 26. And then I started trying to figure out my future after that. I feel like now, like I'm 39 now. I turned 40 this December. My daughter's 2. Like I had kids late, we found a house late. In general, I guess I'm going to keep with the theme of advising my younger self last time, was just that, like, you're going to want a house at some point, right? Like probably, like what are the work backwards from that? Like, what do you need to do to save that much money? Okay, well, you got to get a job. Well, what do you do to get a high paying job? Well, you got to go to school. Like I was kind of aimless, I feel like. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll just shoot in the net a lot and then I'll be in the NHL. And, like it just didn't work out till I was like, shit, I need a real plan. So, as much as it's good to have an open mind and experience the world and all that, and part of that can be a part of your plan. But I would just say, what is your plan to get to, when you see yourself at my age at 39 years old, where do you want to be? What's it look like? And then work backwards from there.
Yeah, I find that happens a lot with, like, even our nephew. He thought he was just destined for the NHL.
Yeah.
Like, not even in any bad way. He just was a goalie. He was good at it, but a better goalie than some advanced age groups. And now he's reached a point where he's going into, I think, grade 10 or 11. He plays high school hockey, and he's got a backup plan. Obviously, it's just like there's so much pressure to play hockey when you play it if you're good at it, and people don't think that there's other avenues like sports reporting and all these other, like, management, scouting, all these different things. So I was just curious to kind of get your take, because you went through that and now you're working for Sportsnet, making the big bucks. And
Yeah, and what's cool though? What's cool is, like, you do find that, like, you have a group of friends and everyone goes out and starts in careers and, like, kind of lower end jobs, and then they work their way up, and then, like, as you get older and, like, all of a sudden I'm the age I am, like, my friends have some kind of high up jobs at some places, and, like, those contacts end up being the people who run places. And so that, like, networking angle is important too, like, get to know people and chit chat. And you know I think this sort of stuff is great, just like get to know people, and all of a sudden 10 years later you're like, yeah, I've got a guy I know who does this and he can help me. This guy's a corporate lawyer and I'm trying to start a business, and I don't know, it's just helpful to get to know people too. So putting yourself out there and making relationships is important.
And that's it for me, Scott. You got anything else?
No, I was just kind of basing what was said. Question popped in my head, but no, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have any other questions.
Well, I
We do want to
appreciate it.
thank you though. Like it was a
Yeah.
complete shot in the dark. You're like
Yeah.
you're one of my favorite reporters. So when I told him that I was gonna message you, I didn't expect a response, and I think you responded like 11 hours later, and I was like, oh, I was at work. I was like, oh shit, what's this? And then you agreed to come
Okay.
on. I was like this is the biggest podcast episode we've ever had.
That's
So I
awesome.
mean, we've only been like we have no connections, so we at least have one, but
This is
a
it.
few. But
Yeah. This is it, man. That's the only thing you can do. And that's what's so great about social media now is, just, as you say, shooting your shot and get to know people. And build it up from there. So best of luck to you guys, man. Appreciate you having me.
yeah, thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
And take care. Best of luck, and remember to buy his book when it comes out in February.
That's right. All right. Thanks, guys. Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin.
Later, fellas.
Bye.